today's session, we are going to discuss about AWS ECS and Fargate itself. Okay, so these are the two services which are provided by AWS for managing and running the containerized applications itself. Okay, first you need to understand before we are understanding this AWS ECS and Fargate, you should have a basic knowledge on the any containerized tool itself. So the popular tool which we are using right now is what Docker itself. So for that actually we have already one playlist is there. Please try to like what go through those that playlist and then get some fundamentals. So and even I'll try to like what give those basics also here in this video. But if you need more knowledge, please go through those videos. I will try to add the same link in the description itself. Okay, so first you need to understand what do you mean by ACS. So ECS stands for Elastic Container Service. AWS ECS stands for Elastic Container Service, and Fargate also we are using. So what these both are, tell me? These are the container services, so which can help you scale your applications, so what do you mean by scaling the applications? Based on the demand, you can increase the instances and you can decrease the instances. That is what exactly auto scaling, we can call it as what auto scaling. First you need to understand, yes, definitely I will tell you the key features, the advantages of ECS, why we are people are moving from normal Docker containerizer to like what ECS, any extra services we are getting, all these things will try to like what definitely cover it with respect to theoretical and as well as what practical itself, but try to like what understand the one by one itself. So what do you mean by containers? As we know, these are the lightweight and something like portable packages that can run applications and their dependencies. Okay, they are just providing, if you have a Docker image, you can run anywhere itself. They provide some consistent and reliable environments for your applications to run wherever you want. So to do something like that, the most popular tool we are using right now in the market is of course Docker itself. Docker is a popular tool for creating and managing containers itself. So then if already such kind of containerized tools are available in the market, why people we are moving to like what these kind of services like ECS and Fargate and all this stuff? Yes, there is a benefit. So ECS is something like it's a fully managed container orchestration service. So that means as a developer we are only focusing on deploying and then running the application. We are not focusing on non-functional activities, something like elastic load balancing, auto scaling. We don't worry, we don't bother about that entire architecture, something like infrastructure services, provisioning the servers, all that infrastructure services, we don't bother about that. So such kind of things will be taken care by this ECS. Okay, so that is the benefit, beauty of why people are moving from normal containerized tools to like what this cloud related containerized tools, like something like ECS. So if anybody is asking like what do you mean by ECS, why should we move to ECS? ECS stands for Elastic Container Service. It is a fully managed container orchestration service that makes it easy to run, scaling and managing the Docker containers. uh, we can run more than one container at a time. All those containers are available in the cluster. Of course, that cluster part I'll show you how we can create the cluster and how we can define the task and all that stuff I'll show you practically. And moreover, it integrates with some other AWS services. This ECS can easily integrate with some other AWS services like elastic load balancing and auto scaling to provide a complete solution for running your applications on AWS itself. Right, that is all about AWS ECS with respect to theory, basic information. Then why we should move to like what AWS Fargate? So Fargate is also a serverless computer. So instead of Fargate, we can also use AWS EC2 instance. Instead of using EC2, if you go to like what Fargate, so this is something like serverless compute engine for containers especially. Okay, that allows you to run containers without managing or having the underlying infrastructures. We don't need to like what provision the servers. Okay, if you go to like what EC2, we have to maintain that server infrastructures and everything we have to take care. But if you go to like what Fargate, we no need to, without having to manage that underlying infrastructures, that Fargate will be taking care. It provides a simple and efficient way to run containers at scale itself. So that is the still so many advantages are, but that is the major benefit of why we people go for what Fargate rather than EC2 instance. So how we can scale the containers? To scale your containers with ECS and Fargate, what you need to do, you have to create the task definitions. How we can create the task, and before the task we have to create the cluster. How we can create the cluster and how we can add this particular task to that particular cluster, I will show you. Okay, so whenever you you create the task definition, that itself defines your container and its resources. So then you can then create a service that runs your task definition and scales it based on demand itself. So you can also use auto scaling that can automatically adjust the number of containers based on metrics like CPU usage itself. So ultimately conclusion is very simple. ECS and Fargate provide a powerful and flexible way to manage your containerized applications at scale. Okay, by leveraging the power of AWS, you can easily run and scale your applications without having to worry about the underlying infrastructures. We no need to provision the servers and all that stuff will be taken care by these services itself. Okay, so I hope, as per my knowledge, I try to like what add my information. If you really wanted to like what any other information, yes, you can comment freely in the comment section itself. Okay, so thank you. And now how these components practically I wanted to like what show you. Practically I wanted to like what use these two components like AWS ECS and Fargate in my application development itself. Okay, so if any doubt still, you can contact me here. And now to use these two components, okay, to use these two components like AWS ECS and Fargate in my application development, what we have to do first, I'm just trying to sorry, first I'm just, okay, what happened, okay, no problem, control on, yeah, first I am going to create the Spring Boot application, and later this Spring Boot application, from this Spring Boot application we are deploying the Docker image, and that particular Docker image, if you want to run, you can run it and then you can observe that output, but running is not an our intention. So once you prepare the Docker image, and that particular Docker image try to like what pull from local to like what your Docker hub itself. So ultimately your Docker image is available right now in the Docker hub itself. So once the Docker image is ready in the Docker hub, okay, we will try to like what pull this Docker image which is available in the Docker hub. We'll try to like what pull that particular Docker image from AWS ECS itself. How we can, that I will show you. Once we can pull it, we will try to like what run that particular Docker image. To run that, we are going to like what use this particular AWS Fargate service also. Okay, so this is how you need to like what, and I mean to say, like while we are creating the task only, it is asking what kind of launching type, whether it is a Fargate or EC2 instance type. So that time you have to like what choose this particular AWS Fargate type. So this is the agenda. Right now I am going to like what show you practically. So to do that, first let me prepare one Spring Boot application. To do this, we'll go to like what Eclipse and Spring Starter project. Click on the next. Okay, so Spring Web, try to like what add, click on the next, click on the finish. Okay, once it is done, only I am adding Spring Web itself under SRC main Java. This application only I am making as a controller class, so that is the reason I am adding this. Only one public string get data. Okay, so here this particular method I am annotating with @get mapping get, let me save this, return, okay, discussion about okay, Spring Boot deployment into AWS using AWS ECS and Fargate. Simply one SOP message I am writing, that's it, right? So if I try to run this application, run as Spring Boot app, happily we can run it and then we can observe it, but still we just try to observe here itself. Localhost 8080, yeah, this one only. See here, discussion about Spring Boot deployment using AWS ECS and Fargate. Yes, it is working fine, perfect, it is working. Now stop the server And now prepare the, we need Docker image, right? So to get the Docker image, first we try to like what prepare the Docker file. Right click on this, click on, and moreover, if I open the pom.xml file, Docker version, I mean Java version is 17. Okay, so now let me under click on the right project, click on the file. Okay, file, docker file, D should be capital, remaining all are small. And already I have copied this, copy this, just paste it here. This is the basic syntax, so please go through my Docker playlist if you really want some explanation regarding this. Okay, open JDK. Here in this pom.xml file 17 is there, you better to like what mention the same version. Expose 8080, I am exposing into the Docker container with respect to 8080 port number. Add target demo.jar. So under target, do we have any jar file so far? We don't have, right? So what I will do is I will try to prepare the jar file first. So here I mentioned target under demo.jar is there. So in the pom.xml file also we will try to like what give the final name as a demo only. Any name you can give. Since I am configuring like this, I am adding the same name there also. So how we can create the jar file? Right click here, run as maven build with 3 dots, clean install. Okay, skip the test, click on the apply, click on the run itself. So we will see whether once that particular Docker image, I mean that particular jar is ready, we can create the Docker image. We can create the Docker image. Yes. So let me try to like what refresh, and under target we can see this demo.jar file. Now we are adding this demo.jar file to the Docker container with the same name, and we are trying to run in the port number 8080. That is the point. So now to run this into a Docker container, what we have to do is first open the Docker desktop. Okay, these are all the basic steps you have to follow. If you are not following, without telling those also I can show you, but you people may not get. That is why I am just telling you. Just try to like what open the Docker desktop and open the command prompt. Okay, open the command prompt, and where exactly my file Docker file is available, go to the directory E drive cd learnings cd something like AWS, sorry, AWS CD Spring Boot, what is that, AWS ECS Fargate CLS. Okay, here it is in this particular directory. Docker file is there or not there? Yeah, it is there. See here. Yeah, since Docker file is there, we can build the image. To build the image, I am following. See, normally we can build like this. Docker build something like this -t. We can provide the image name and then give the tag name. We can give like this. But I am following a little more steps. I mean, since my requirement is to like what push this particular Docker image into a Docker hub. So there I am going to like what use that particular Docker ID, especially Docker hub. If I open the Docker hub, click on this Docker hub. So once you open your credentials with your, once you sign in into your Docker credentials, you will get this right hand side. You see, yeah, this one is my Docker ID itself. With the same Docker ID, I will try to like what prepare the Docker image. So how we can prepare as per your Docker ID, we will, you also please try to like what prepare the Docker image. Okay, so that's the recommended approach. So Docker build -t. Okay, Shailu Rams is my Docker ID hyphen which Spring Boot ECS. First of all, any images are there, you please cross check. Docker images, no images are there. Okay, Docker build -t is for tag name, Shailu Rams / Spring Boot ECS Fargate. Okay, colon 0.1 release. Okay, sorry. So we have to provide the dot represents it's a current directory. Okay, so now image is going to be created. Once it is done, Docker images, see here, Shailu Rams Spring Boot ECS Fargate is the image name, and this is the tag name, and this is the image ID created 6 seconds ago, and the size is 490 MB. Once the Docker image is created, we can run it also. How we can run it? docker run -p 8080 already exposed this image in the docker file. If you are observing, this we are exposing in the 8080, it is running. If you really want to like what expose into some other port number, yes, you can use it. See here 9090 I am using, existing one is 8080. Docker run -p 9090 colon 8080 Shilu rams spring boot ECS Fargate, okay, colon 0.1 point release. Okay, that's it. We will try to like what run this now. Yeah, it started to run. Now we can cross check in which port number, 9090. Come back to here. If I run this, we will see. Okay, why we are not getting? Because it is not running right now on 8080. We are exposing into 9090. See here, now we are getting itself. So from where right now I am not running locally, I am running the same application in the Docker itself. Okay, so with the same port number we are just cross checking whether it is running or not. So since we are getting, so that means, so this is how exactly we can Dockerize the Spring Boot application. Okay, so I hope you understand, clear, right? So if you observe our service, I mean, once we created the Docker image and we can run it, that's fine. Just for cross checking purpose, I am just testing to whether it is running or not in the Docker. So once it is done, close this. Okay, close this. Now we supposed to like what, push this particular Docker image, okay, into Docker Hub. How we can push? It's very simple. Again, come back to like what, command prompt. Okay, Docker images. Yeah, this is the image. Docker push. I think to push the image, we have one command is there. I am not sure. One second. Let me cross check. Yeah, this is the command, I guess. Yeah, Docker push. Yeah, this is the command. Let me copy. Docker push. Tag name Shilu Rams Spring Boot ECS Fargate is the image name. Okay, is the image name, colon tag name. What is the tag name? Tell me. 0.1 point release. Okay, release. So the push refers to repository preparing. Yeah, it will take some time. Spring Boot ECS Fargate. One second. While we are pushing the image from local to like what Docker Hub, if you are getting any authentication issues, you please try to like what login by using this Docker login credentials. When you are giving like Docker login, uh, okay, so now since I gave already my credentials, it is not asking. Okay, so while we are pushing without logging, you may get an error. If you are getting the error, please pass this command and give your login credentials. Okay, and then try to use this command so that you won't face any issues. So this command is not giving me any issues, so that means this image got pulled, I mean this image got pushed to this particular Docker Hub itself. When I click on the repository, see here Shilu Rams Spring Boot ECS Fargate contains image last published a few seconds ago. If you are observing, a few seconds ago, so that means it got successfully pushed to Docker Hub. So the image whatever you have created. So once it is done, we have to like what, pull the same image from the AWS ECS. How we can do that? So to do this, so up to here it's very clear, right? So you go to the AWS account console, click on this, sign into the console. Okay, so here services ECS, type this elastic container service. Okay, so here get started. Okay, here directly it will come. See here clusters, namespaces, task definitions are there. Okay, if you really want to like what, first please try to like what, prepare the task definition, prepare the task itself. Okay, so as I mentioned, create a new task definition. Okay, first one you have to select task definition or family name, anything. For example, here already the names are there. Example 1 I am giving. Okay, task name we are going, unique task definition name you have to provide, and container 1 you can give the container 1 Java Jungle Docker image 1 I am giving. Repository, as I said, if you are observing the image, we are trying to pull the Docker image from the Docker hub into the AWS ECS. So that is why we have to like what give this remote URL. How can we give this? In the container part we are going to provide that particular image. So if you are observing docker.io, no, I guess, one second, I think one second. I'm not sure, one second please. We have to like what give that particular command. You please wait, I'll tell you what is that URL. So that repository URL we have to add here, one second. So this is the repository URL followed by image and all that stuff. Okay, I think we'll give like this docker.io. Oh my god, it was there already. I should type this docker.io, okay, slash Shiloh Rams slash okay. So what is that image name? Tell me. One second. Docker images. Okay. Here Spring Shiloh Ram Spring Boot hyphen ECS hyphen Fargate. Spring Boot hyphen ECS hyphen Fargate 0.1 point release. That's it. The same thing it is also there here itself. Shiloh Ram Spring Boot ECS. Tag name is what? Tag name is 0.1 point release. The same thing here I am giving. Did I give the same? Yes, I gave the same. Okay, fine. Here container port, just try to like what remove, add it 8080 I am giving. Okay, add more port mapping here 80 you just give. Okay, two port numbers, one is 8080 I am adding. Same thing, you are not adding anything, that's it. Okay, click on the next. I am preparing the task, you please observe. App environment, So I told you na AWS ECS with Fargate and EC2 instance. So if it is a serverless, we no need to like what provision the server, that infrastructure will be taken care by AWS Fargate only. If our requirement is that, we will choose this AWS Fargate only. So now I am just choosing the AWS Fargate. Okay, operating system leave it. CPU task size is a 3 GB, 0.5 CPU. Okay, keep it like that only. Okay, this is the optional task role. None. I'm selecting none. Fine. Monitoring, logging, cloud watch, everything is fine. Okay, use metric collection. Click on the next. Okay, so here in the container I gave the container name followed by the remote URL of your Docker image. Okay, fine. So once it is done, click on the create. Yeah, once it is getting task definition successfully created. Once it is getting created, go to the cluster itself. Okay, so far we don't have a cluster. Inside this we will try to like what create the cluster name itself. Okay, Spring Boot ECS Fargate demo Docker demo app. Simply I am giving the cluster name is like this. Okay, VPC subnet. Let me add the default subnet, that is the first subnet. I am just unchecking all these things. Just the first subnet only, keep it like that. VPC first subnet. Default namespace, it is fine. Click on the create. Once the cluster also getting created, what we have to do is, I will show you, I will tell you, you just observe the same steps. You please observe the same steps. It is just taking some time to create the cluster. Once cluster gets created, I will try to add the task to the cluster itself. Almost we have done. Okay, so only to work with this AWS, majority is configuration. If you are able to configure properly, you can drive very smoothly. Okay, but what we are configuring, why we are configuring is important. So you please try to like what follow the same steps to execute very smoothly. Cloud formation cluster is in progress. Yeah, see, cluster is also getting created. Once you click on this cluster, okay, so services, tasks, infrastructures, these are there now. Click on the tasks. Okay, so right now we don't have any task itself. Okay, now click on the run new task. Okay, now here capacity provider strategy is there, launch type is there. Just click on the launch type. So I told you na Fargate EC2 external, I am just selecting Fargate only. Okay, task only, keep task only. So everything is fine now, keep it like that. Family, I am not touching anything. Networking, VPC, subnets, same thing. That means you uncheck all the remaining subnets. Keep first one only into the consideration. Okay, we are choosing that subnet only. Fine. Here use an existing security group or create a new security group based on your availability. You can. So now I wanted to like what create a new security group. So all security permissions. Simply any name you can give. Any name we can give. All permissions. What all TCP I am giving. Source is anywhere I am giving. And one more rule, all traffic also I am giving. All traffic. Okay, here also I am just selecting anywhere. This is the new security group which I am creating with all TCP, all traffic, source as anywhere. Okay, click on the create. That's it. Okay, so it is asking the family na. Okay, Spring Boot Docker ECS example one. Okay, that's fine. Okay, this is the I think the task name which we gave. So while we are clustering, while we are preparing this, you have to like what ask, you have to choose that. Okay, click on the create. Yeah, task definition successfully created, tasks launched, cluster is also created. Okay, cluster is also created. So once we click on the cluster, now we will get this. Okay, just close all these logs. Okay, this is the cluster. Once you click on this, okay, here go to the tasks and it is provisioning. See here, status is provisioning. You try to refresh. Once it gets running, we can observe something. It is pending still. Okay. Yeah, it is running desired state. Just click on this. 1 second. Status supposed to be changed to running itself. See here, it got it is just changed to like what, running itself. So that means now let me click on the open link in new tab on top of the task, so that you can observe this public IP here, private IP MAC address. You just copy this public IP itself. So with this public IP, you are able to like what, run that particular Docker image from the AWS ECS itself. So colon where it is running under 8080, okay, followed by what is that, requested URL pattern get itself. Once you pass this, see here, discussion about Spring Boot deployment using AWS ECS and Fargate. So this way we can deploy the Docker image. This way we can deploy the Docker image into AWS ECS, and using Fargate we are able to like what, create the corresponding tasks and clusters, and we can make it run like this itself. So okay, I hope you understood. Okay, so but in this particular image, if you are observing, we are deploying this Docker image into the Docker Hub. This is the third party. I mean, this is the public repository. So any other person also can able to like what, access. Instead of Docker Hub, I will try to like what, use some other AWS service. Instead of Docker Hub, I will try to like what, push this Docker image into that particular service, and from there ECS. I'll tell you that particular stuff, how exactly instead of Docker Hub, with the AWS existing service, how we can push this Docker image into that I will prepare in my next video itself. So I hope you understand how exactly we can deploy this containerized image into AWS ECS, and using Fargate we can able to execute this. Please try to follow the same steps and to get smooth execution. Okay, if any doubts you have still, you please try to feel free to post your questions in the comment section. I am always here to help you. And please, I hope who are benefiting, I mean who need, actually please try to share my videos to them. Please like my video and subscribe my channel for my upcoming videos. Okay, so thanks a lot. We'll meet you in my next session. Thank you.